Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Harbor Me by Jacqueline Woodson, as read by me, Miss Ortiz. Just kind of adjusting a little bit here. Whoopsies. Okay, so if you are just tuning in, we are up to chapter 4 in Harbor Me. So that means that you should have read or watched the intro chapter 1 video, the chapter 2 video, and the chapter 3 video. So where we last left off, we saw that Haley, our narrator, was really concerned about Esteban, the boy who is in her class and said, "We think they took my puppy." And she really sort of wants to reach out to him and offers him some words of comfort because it seems like she has a way of connecting with him. We don't really know what that is yet, but she doesn't. And so we sort of left off there, and we're going to start chapter 4 today. Just do a little adjusting, a little zooming. Okay. Chapter 4. If there's one thing I do remember, as clear as if it happened an hour ago, it's the afternoon when Miss Laverne said to us, "Put down your pencils and come with me." It was the end of September, and we had been taking a spelling test. Esteban had been absent for days, and when he finally returned, Miss Laverne asked him if he was up to doing some work, and he nodded. "It helps me forget for a little while," he said. "Forget what?" Amari asked. "That nobody knows where they took him. And now we're packing up everything," Esteban said, "because if they took him, maybe they're going to take us too." Remember, Esteban is talking about his father here. He was taken and nobody knows where he is. I turned back to my test. I didn't want to think about fathers. Mine had been in prison for 8 years by then. In the last letter we'd gotten, he said he wasn't sure what would happen with his parole. If he got it, he didn't know exactly when he'd be coming home. I remember zero about living with him. Every good thing that happened had happened with my uncle. I couldn't imagine a different life. I didn't want to imagine it. Not for me, not for anyone. I was stuck on the word holiday. Did it have one L or two? My spelling had always been bad, but in Miss Laverne's class, it didn't matter so much because we were all at different levels in one thing or another. The words you miss just tell me what you don't know yet, Miss Laverne always said. It says nothing about who you are. For some reason, that made me feel better. I was 11 years old. What 11-year-old didn't know how to spell holiday? Put your pencils down and come with me. The 6 of us stood up. Our school uniforms were white shirts and dark blue pants or skirts. That kind of sounds like your guys' uniform. We could wear any jackets, shoes, and tights we wanted. I had worn blue and white striped tights that day. Holly's tights had red stars on them. When we stood next to each other in the schoolyard that morning, our stars and stripes echoed, the flag waving from the pole above us, We had spent the minutes before the bell rang dancing around it, while Holly sang that old song about having a hammer. I'd hammer out danger. I'd hammer out a warning. We stood next to our desks and waited for Miss Laverne to tell us what to do next. Amari pulled his hoodie over his head, then quickly pulled it off again, the way he sometimes did when he was nervous. Amari was beautiful. His skin was so dark, you could almost see the color blue running beneath it. His eyes were dark too. Dark like there was smoke behind his pupils. Dark and serious and infinite. In that 5th or 6th grade class, I didn't know how to say any of this. I wanted only to look at him and look at him. Take a picture, it'll last longer, Amari said to me in such a cranky way it almost brought me to tears. Ashton smirked, then pushed his hair away from his forehead and held his hand there. She doesn't want a picture of you, Holly said. Bad enough, we have to look at you 5 days a week. She had left her desk and was heading over to the classroom library. Holly, back to your desk, Miss Laverne said. I want you all to take your books. You won't be coming back here today. We all gathered our stuff and followed her into the hallway. Miss Laverne took out her phone and said, Smile, people. In the photo, Holly and I have our fingers linked together, our tights looking crazier than anything. Amari has his hood halfway on and halfway off. And Tiago, Esteban, and Ashton are all looking away from the camera. The picture is taped to my refrigerator now. We all look so young in it, our cheeks puffing out with baby fat, our uniform shirts untucked, Tiago's sneakers untied. That's really interesting, where she says, the picture is taped to my refrigerator now. We all look so young in it. That makes me think that maybe she's telling the story as she sees it. She's telling the story not from the future, but she's looking back and telling the story. She's not telling the story as it's happening. She's kind of having a memory and remembering a time when she was younger and this was all occurring. So it makes me think she's telling the story about her past self and she's older now. We're going to pick up from here. We walked down the hall behind Miss Laverne, her heels softly clicking. I thought about how maybe one day I'd grow up to wear black shoes with small heels that clicked as I walked down a hall, and have students following behind who were a little bit in love with me. 2 small kids came running down the hall, but when they saw Miss Laverne, they stopped and started walking so slowly I almost laughed. Esteban pulled his knapsack onto his shoulder and held it with both hands. You okay, bro? Amari put his hand on Esteban's arm. No, Esteban said, not really. Amari moved his arm over Esteban's shoulder and kept it there. All right. Next up will be chapter 5. So check it out.